Welcome to Soccer 101, the podcast where we answer the soccer questions you never knew you had. My name's Ryan Bailey, and joining me today, hello Joe Lowry.
Hello, Ryan Bailey.
You copied my strange intonation. Thank you very much, Joe. And a little snigger there from Graham Ruthven. Hello.
Oh, did I not get the same introduction? Hi, Ryan.
Well, your name's Graham, his name's Joe. What else do you want different?
Well, I thought you'd maybe do it in the same tone. Hello, Ryan Bailey.
I was embarrassed enough by the first one. All right, just the three of us today for this one, but we've got a very interesting topic to cover. We're looking at soccer terminology, principally the terms that are used for a player who is fortunate enough to have scored more than one goal in a game. Why don't we crack straight to it? Joseph, tell me, what does it mean, or what is the word we use when a player scores 2 goals in a game? Pray tell.
Ooh, I know this one. So when a player scores 2 goals in a game, we call it a brace. And that is pretty common terminology, right? A lot of folks use that to describe a multi-goal, specifically 2-goal game. The origin of this term, though, guys, I did not know, and maybe you fellas did, but I had to really dive into the research here because all the years that I've watched soccer, which granted, not as many as a lot of other folks, but still, I did not know what this word meant or why we use this word to describe a 2-goal game. So I dug into the roots of this, going back to English and French and Latin in the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries. According to Oxford Languages, brace has its roots in Middle English as a verb meaning to clasp or fasten tightly. I'm kind of an etymology nerd, so sorry if I go slightly long here. To clasp or fasten tightly. It also has roots in Old French, meaning 2 arms. There's a little hint of 2 there for the first time. And then Latin, as the plural of brachium, which meant arm. So if you have multiple there, you'd be sitting with 2 arms. So apparently in the 15th century, brace became an English term for a pair of things, especially in hunting. A pair of dogs that you would go and hunt with, or maybe you would get a brace of birds on the hunt. So you get 2 of those things. So between Middle English and Old French and Latin, and then it becoming more popular in hunting culture in England a long, long time ago, that's how, according to my research at least, that's how we end up calling 2-goal games braces.
There you go. Yes, as you say, it comes back from the 14th to the 16th century. That's quite a grouping you've done of several hundred years. But I think you're right there. And it's in the Oxford Dictionary as 2 things of the same type. Graham, if it's a word that's sort of archaic and from many hundreds of years ago, I'm assuming you're still using that in Scotland in general parlance.
I mean, we have never used Old English hunting terms in Scottish parlance, even going back in the day. So, no, that's not one I was familiar with.
Fair enough. It's one of those, there's several terms in soccer which would be a bit impermeable to the casual fan. I can imagine, say, if you were a new fan and you were just picking your first MLS team or something, and you saw that a player bagged a brace, I can imagine you not knowing at all what that meant. And like, when I came to NFL, I started following NFL about 10 or 11 years ago, and there were several things that I had to really look in to try and find exactly what they meant, and this may be a soccer example.
It's quite crickety, isn't it? To call something a brace. It doesn't really have a meaning elsewhere in the real world. And I don't think.
I never thought, Ryan, going back to bag a brace, like putting birds that you might shoot on the hunt or something in a bag, like multiples. That had never clicked for me. Maybe that's not it. I didn't actually research that because I forgot about that whole idea of bagging multiple goals. But I wonder if there's a tie in there too.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some alternate histories. Maybe it wasn't actually the etymology came from the 14th century. There was just a player in the 18th century called David Brace who used to shout brace when he scored his second goal. Maybe it was that instead. Who knows? The internet's full of a lot of lies. Who knows? Why don't we talk about some of the most famous braces, if we have any, from soccer history? I've got some stats for you. Would you like to know, or would you tell me, who has the most braces in the Champions League? It's not hard to guess, Graham.
I'm going to go with one of the 2 obvious answers. So Ronaldo first?
It's the Champions League's all-time top scorer, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay.
Yes, he has 38 braces in the competition. Not surprising, given he has scored 139 goals in this competition. Messi, a paltry 34 braces. What's he doing?
Slacker.
Slacker. Graham, any braces that stand out to you in the annals of time?
Yeah, so I think I might have more examples for the hat tricks that we're going to talk about after this, but
Spoiler
because
alert.
obviously braces they're relatively common in soccer. You know, you have a few in a weekend across European and MLS and all the leagues and so on. But I guess arguably the most famous, was Pelé in the 1958 World Cup final for Brazil against Sweden. He scored 2 goals in that final. Brazil won 5-2. Pelé at that tournament, I think I'm right in saying, was an 18-year-old. He was a teenager. He was certainly very young. And so it was kind of him announcing himself to the world as, at that time, the greatest ever player that there'd ever been. Maybe he's still the greatest ever player there's ever been. So I think that's one that deserves a mention, certainly as one of the most famous braces in soccer history.
Excellent choice. Joe, do you have any? And it's okay not to, because it's not a terribly well-recorded stat.
Oh, no, I do have one, and it came to mind almost immediately for me. It's a brace from Zlatan Ibrahimovic back in 2018 for the LA Galaxy in his debut. It had that goal. I don't know. I think we can all be picturing that goal at the same time, and maybe listeners can as well. It's that the first goal here is that volley from so far out. As we're recording this 101 episode, the U.S. and Jamaica just drew a few days ago now. Mikel Antonio hit a ridiculous goal from 35 yards out. This goal, the first of his brace for Zlatan, was even further than that. It's an insane finish after coming onto the field in the 71st minute. The Galaxy down 3-1. The Galaxy get one back before Ibra starts his brace to make it 3-2. And then it is that legendary volley that catches Tyler Miller out in a way that just no one should have any business catching a goalkeeper out. It's one of my favorite goals, if not, it's not my favorite goal of all time, but it's got to be up there. And then the second goal comes in second half stoppage time. It's a header. It's a nice header towards the back post, I believe, in the 6-yard box. And that one gives the Galaxy a 4-3 lead and a 4-3 win ultimately at the end of that game. A phenomenal brace, and then in the context of El Tráfico, also just a great win for the Galaxy in that rivalry.
Yeah. His greatest Galaxy performance, besides that Jimmy Kimmel performance where he just did one-liners and zingers for 8 minutes. Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Well, that's braces covered, gents. Why don't we brace ourselves for part 2 of this podcast after this short break, when we'll be getting into hat-tricks, and also going to tease a little bit more about Zlatan, because he comes up in this second half too. We'll be back soon.
That's the sound of another Shopify sale, because today's Soccer 101 episode is, not surprisingly, brought to you by Shopify. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business, so upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. I mentioned this last time, but my brother-in-law and sister-in-law run a shop here in Richmond called Dear Neighbor. You can and should find them online if you want. And they attest that the Shopify noise is a very comforting thing to hear, to know that sales are happening even when you're not physically standing in the shop. They could be happening at all hours, and that means the money is coming in. Shopify lets you connect with your customers, drive sales, and manage your day-to-day much more easily. And they have thousands of integrations and third-party apps, from on-demand printing to accounting to advanced chatbots and beyond. So go to shopify.com/soccer101, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. So grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/soccer101 right now. Shopify.com/soccer101, all lowercase, to see what they have on offer and get a free 14-day trial. Thank you very much to Shopify for sponsoring today's episode and for the lovely sound effect. Today's episode is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like using your smartphone without a protective case. Most of the time, you'll probably be fine, but all it takes is one accidental drop onto solid concrete to make you wish you had protected yourself. I have done that so many times with so many phones. I do immediately wish that I had gone for the indestructible case, or in this case, indestructible ExpressVPN. Because every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, whatever they might be, your online data is not secured. And any hacker, a 12-year-old hacker, let's say, on the same network could gain access and steal your personal data, passwords, financial details, you name it. But that is why you get ExpressVPN, because it creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet that hackers cannot get into. They cannot breach, they cannot steal your sensitive data. Or, I guess they could, but it would take over 1 billion years with a supercomputer to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. So you can fire up the app, click one button to get protected, and away you go. It works on all devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and more. And a key thing about ExpressVPN that we have talked about before, but we experience whenever we use it, is that you don't have that massive drop-off that you might get with other VPN services where the speed will throttle and then you're not able to get access to what you would like to, or it gets all pixelated and blurry. Nobody needs that. ExpressVPN keeps it going, keeps it quick, but keeps you securely connected. So secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/soccer. That's expressvpn.com/soccer, and you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/soccer for an extra 3 months for free. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's show and keeping us all secure.
Soccer 101, we have returned. We're talking about soccer terminology for scoring more than one goal in a game. We move on, Graham, to when you score 3 goals. We've already said what the term is. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so that term is hat-trick, referring to scoring of 3 goals in one match by a single player. As a tradition, just going into the tradition of it, the player who scores the hat-trick tends to get to keep the match ball, although in the modern game it's slightly pointless as there are sometimes countless match balls, but still I think it's quite a nice tradition for that player to have a memento, a souvenir of that occasion. Going into the origins and the history of the term, similar to when we're talking about the brace, the term hat-trick kind of comes from a long time ago, comes from a different sport in this regard. So the term first appeared in 1858 in cricket. So when I said that brace sounded quite crickety, hat-trick literally comes from cricket, and it was used to describe H.H. Stevenson, not a player I'm familiar with.
You don't know old H.H. Stevenson, Graham? Come on. Wow.
I was going to say you could name a modern day cricket player and I would not be familiar with that player, so I'm definitely not familiar with H.H. Stevenson from 1858. But it was used to describe him taking 3 wickets with 3 consecutive deliveries. I am reading off a script because I have no idea about cricket. And what happened was fans held a collection for Stevenson to give him a kind of a reward, and they presented him with a hat that they bought from the proceeds. And now that term is used not just in soccer, the term hat-trick, it's used in a number of different sports, and I'm also reading that it's used in Scrabble. I don't actually play Scrabble, so that might not be true, but I read it's used in Scrabble.
How? I can't, is it like when you spell the word hat-trick out? I can't quite think how that would work, but I'm sure it does. I'm sure I'm being dense at that point. Thank you very much, Graham. I'd like to know what kind of hat it was. 1858, I'm guessing a bowler hat. It's not going to be a baseball cap, is it?
Yeah. It's not going to be a Von Dutch trucker hat, is it?
Oh, gosh, I hope it was. I really hope it was, Graham. And I like that you mentioned the tradition of keeping the match ball as well. One thing I'll note about hat-tricks, whenever I hear the word, it gives me fond memories of 1994. And at least one of you wasn't alive, I don't believe, to experience at McDonald's the Hat-Trick Cheeseburger. Graham, have you ever heard of the Hat-Trick Cheeseburger?
I have not, but I am intrigued.
So in the build-up to the 94 USA World Cup, I was very young, I was like 8 or 9 or whatever, and they introduced the Hat-Trick Cheeseburger, which was, as it sounds, a cheeseburger with 3 patties of beef inside it. It is, and it remains, the greatest item McDonald's has ever had on its menu. And they took it away after a couple of months. It was gone. It was gone.
They always take away the best items. R.I.P. The McRib.
The McRib. McRib. You've seen that Simpsons episode where Homer goes on tour following the Rib Witch around?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
If there was a Hat-Trick Cheeseburger tour, I would have gone on it. I can assure you of that. But getting back on track with soccer, why don't we talk about some of our favourite hat-tricks? I'll give you one. There was one just this international break past. Harry Kane, with the 5-0 win over Albania, got a perfect hat-trick. Joe, would you like to tell us what a perfect hat-trick is?
I would love to. This is a term that you don't see all that often because it just doesn't happen all that often. It's a goal with the right foot, a goal with the left foot, a goal with the head. I think you're doing some other body parts a disservice there when we define it that way. But I suppose we can stick with the conventional left-right header definition here, right?
Yeah, and there's been a few of those famous ones. I can remember Gareth Bale getting a pretty decent one for Tottenham back in the day as well. Would you like to know would you like to guess, Graham, who got the most hat-tricks in their career, or who has the most hat-tricks in their career?
In all competitions?
In all of Soccerdom.
I'd be picking a name out of a hat. So to speak, Pele, let's go with him.
Yes, our bowler hat, I hope, from 1858. And Pele is the correct answer, according to Pele, who has 92 hat-tricks. But bear in mind, of his many thousands of goals he scored, many of them were in training and in his backyard. So we have to wonder about the record keeping there. He has 92. Cristiano Ronaldo, 56. Messi in his career, 53. Ronaldo has the most international hat-tricks as well. He's got 10 in a Portugal shirt. And I was trying to find the quickest hat-trick. I think there are some super quick ones out there, but Joe, the one that I remember professionally in the professional game was Sadio Mane for Southampton in 2015 in the 6-1 win over Aston Villa. That one was 176 seconds. Basically Liverpool clamouring for his signature after he managed that in 2 minutes and 56 seconds against Aston Villa. I think it was Robbie Fowler who had, if my memory serves correct, who had the record beforehand. There was a game against Arsenal where he went crazy in a few minutes, I seem to remember. Joe, any memorable hat-tricks stand out to you?
Sorry, I'm still stuck on 2 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yeah.
That's insane. I'm going to have to go back and watch it because I have heard about that before, but hearing you say it, it blows my mind. One hat trick that stands out to me is Messi's first ever hat trick. He's had a bunch of hat tricks throughout his career, but it came in a 3-3 edition of El Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid back in 2007. Messi's still kind of bursting onto the scene in a European sense. A nice trio of goals there, and I just like the fact that it's the first of what would turn out to be a lot of hat tricks from the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, and Madrid went ahead 3 times in that game. He pulled it back 3 times.
3 times,
and,
yeah.
I believe he got an ovation from the Madrid fans in that game, as I think only Ronaldinho has ever earned from Madrid fans in the Clasico. Someone else who got an ovation from the opposing team for a hat-trick, Ronaldo, R9 Ronaldo, Graham. I don't know if you remember April 2003, Champions League semi-finals, Madrid against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Finished 4-3 to Man United on the day, but Madrid went through on aggregate. But Ronaldo got an incredible hat-trick on that day, which had the fans at Old Trafford standing for him.
Yeah, and all 3 finishes for that hat-trick are incredible. I don't think it is a perfect hat-trick because 2 of them are with kind of the right foot into the near post, but it was just a symbol at that moment in time that Ronaldo was the best player in the world. And a lot of the hat-tricks that I will mention do kind of come with that symbolism attached, that there's a reason. It's not just the quality of the hat-trick that makes me remember it, but it's also kind of what it means in a wider sense. And as I say, at that time, Ronaldo, 2003, there wasn't anyone better.
Tell us some more of your hat-trick faves then, G.
So another one that I would mention would be the Bale hat-trick at the San Siro.
Yes.
Easy to forget that Tottenham actually lost this match, much like Ronaldo at Old Trafford, but his hat-trick in the Champions League against Inter at the San Siro kind of announced him as one of the best players in the world at the time, and the most remarkable thing about it is all 3 goals, particularly the first and second goal, are very similar. The first and second goal are actually carbon copies of each other, where he just kind of bursts down the left side and then arrows a left-footed finish across goal from a kind of impossible angle into the back of the net. So that's one hat-trick in the modern game that I remember. Another one I would mention would be Wayne Rooney's Manchester United debut in 2004. Again, all about the symbolism. So this was a sign that he'd kind of arrived. He'd had to wait for his debut. I think he had an injury at the start of the season, so this was his first game in the Champions League against Fenerbahce. And it just was a proof that he was going to instantly change things for my United team. I actually remember watching this game live on the TV. And the weird thing about the hat-trick is Rooney scores his 3rd with a free kick.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm presuming he was okay at free kicks, but over the course of his career, I don't really remember him being a prolific free kick taker. So kind of just showed the confidence. I remember do you remember he kind of ripped the shirt at the collar?
Yeah.
For that game. I don't really know what that was about, but those are just the little things you remember about moments like this. And I guess I should probably mention, as much as I don't want to mention the first one, the 2 hat-tricks that have been scored in World Cup finals. So you have Jeff Hurst for England in 1966 against West Germany. And then you have Carly Lloyd for the USA against Japan in the 2015 Women's World Cup final as well. So I guess if you score a hat-trick in a World Cup final, it probably deserves to get mentioned in this section.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Graham. Couldn't agree more. Thank you for bringing those ones up. So that's braces and hat-tricks, gents. I want to finish off by giving you a little test if you're aware of the terminology or the slang for if you score more than 3 goals, if a single player scores more than 3 goals in a game. Do you know, Joe, the term for scoring 4 goals in a game?
So I didn't before I researched this, but I did do some research into what 4 is called. I found a couple different things. Maybe there's one that's more widely accepted. Is it a haul? Ryan, is that what you're thinking of?
So I've seen haul, and I've also seen one which I believe is more commonly used, maybe on the continent, a poker, which apparently comes from Spain. And there have been a few instances of pokers or hauls being scored, 4 goals. Messi did it against Arsenal in the Champions League in 2009-10. But the one I was going to mention is our friend Zlatan once again. If you remember, Graham, I don't know if you remember the England friendly against England, Sweden against England, when I think they opened their new stadium in Stockholm in November 2012. It was a 4-2 win for Sweden. All 4 goals coming from Zlatan, and all 4 goals were absolutely brilliant. We had this poacher's goal to open it up. Zlatan's second goal was of a chest and volley finish. The third goal was a long-range free kick from like 40 yards. And the fourth goal was that bicycle kick from well outside the box. And I can't think of it was a friendly game, but I can't think of a more outstanding single performance from an attacking player than Zlatan scoring 4 incredible goals in one international game.
Yeah, and I know all 4 goals were well taken, but I almost stopped you when you said they were all good goals. Yeah, one of them was better than the others, though. It's, as you say, a friendly match, so it's not often that you really remember friendly matches at all, but the fact that performance is still spoken about tells you how good he was in that game.
Indeed. So that's 4 goals, a poker or perhaps a haul. Graham, 5 goals. Have you heard any terminology for that?
I honestly have no idea. I'm actually really interested. What have you got, Ryan?
So I hadn't heard any of these terms for 4 goals or beyond, but the 5 goals one I found was a glut. A glut of goals is what it's known in some corners. I think these are a bit more colloquial than brace and hat-trick, and maybe a bit varying by region, if you will.
I definitely have heard that many times before, but I didn't know it specifically related to 5 goals.
Indeed.
I didn't know that.
Well, and there's a perfect window here for McDonald's to roll out the McGlut. That feels like a real winner to me.
Oh boy, I don't want to know what's in that, but I'm going to buy it.
5 patties.
5 patties, Graham. 5
jaw.
patties, yeah.
Yeah, incredible stuff. I've got some examples of gluts. Messi's done it. He did it against Leverkusen in the round of 16 of the Champions League in 2011-12. Ronaldo has done it twice for Real Madrid in 2015-16 against Granada, and again the following season against Espanyol. Quiz time. 5 Premier League players, Graham, have scored 5 goals in a game. Do you care to see if you can pick a few of them out?
I mean, I honestly can't really remember. Has Jamie Vardy done it? Is he one of them? No, I don't think he is.
It's good, but it's not quite right, Graham. No. I'll go through it for you. Dimitar Berbatov got 5 goals.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah, I do remember that one.
Alan Shearer has done it. Andy Cole has done it. What was your guess there, Joe?
Aguero? Aye.
1 million points for Joe. Congratulations. So it's Berbatov, Aguero, Shearer, Andy Cole. The final and 5th player to have scored 5, Jermaine Defoe.
Toronto FC legend Jermaine Defoe. Thank you.
Oh, I got one more of these for you, Joe. 6 goals scored in a game. It doesn't happen very often. Apparently called a double hat trick or a haul trick, if you will. I think they're making the internet's making these up at this point.
That one does not work as well with the Mick in front of it, so I'm just going to pretend like that one's not real.
The McCall trick, yeah, it doesn't quite sound as appetizing. You're quite right. No one has ever scored that many goals in the Premier League. There are a few examples of players scoring 6. Would you guess it, Graham? Pele claims to have done it in a game.
Of course.
But of course, that game, as we say, was against his children in his backyard.
He claims to have done it in one half.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. So there you go. Collective terms for goals. Wasn't that fun? Graham, thank you very much for your contributions on this episode of Soccer 101. I hope you've learned something, if not the term glut.
Yeah, well, the main takeaway from this is I'm going to be thinking about the Mick Hat-Trick for the rest of the night.
Joe Lowry, go on YouTube and Google the Hat-Trick Cheeseburger and savour the 90s goodness, please.
I will, Ryan. And just so you know, Graham and I have started a collection. We will be sending you a trucker hat for your work on this episode. Just really nailed all 3 parts. There weren't 3. Well, there kind of were 3 parts. We're going to go with that analogy. So your hat is in the mail, headed to Italy as we speak.
One of those H.H. Stevenson's Von Dutches, please. Thank you very much, Joe. Listener, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with another one. But for now, ta-ra, bye!